But when it came down to the Roll With It versus Country, I mean, Country Hearts I thought was garbage. Roll With It I wouldn't say was garbage, but I don't think it should have been a single. Hello again everybody, what's good? It's me, it's Ted. It's another episode from Blunt Ted Talks, late night edition. Nearly forgot what the channel was called again. I do it every single... I recently renamed the channel and I've completely forgot what it's called since then. Forgive me. So yeah, it's me, Ted. So thank you very much for clicking on the video. Thank you very much to all the new subscribers. There's been loads of you. So yeah, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much to everybody that likes and shares and comments on the videos. And also a big thank you very much to, I've got the first member on the channel. So yeah, big thank you very much to you. If you would like to become a member on the channel and help support the channel, then you can click that join button below, and then that will take you through to it. And then there's weekly members videos and chats and all sorts. So yeah, please consider joining that one. So yeah, this one is about the Oasis reunion and what it means to not just myself, but what it means to the UK and why it's so important. So when Oasis were around the first times in the 90s, you know, the first few albums, definitely Maybe, Morning Glory, Be Here Now, there was this feeling in the air of hope. You know, things were good in the UK at the time. I mean, Tony Blair, whatever your opinion of him was, you know, people had the money in the pocket. Admittedly afterwards, you know, he went on to, you know, be exposed as a bit of a war criminal. But, you know, people had the money in the pocket, and inevitably it led to the downfall of Great Britain, or part of the downfall of Great Britain, because everything just collapsed. However, at that time, you know, things were great. You know, music was brilliant. You know, people were picking up guitars and playing the drums, and people were singing again, and yeah, it was great. The whole Manchester scene was alive again, since, you know, you had the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses, and then along came Oasis. So there was like this feeling of hope. Everybody was happy. You know, me myself personally, I was a teenager at this point. I was born in 1981. So by the time Oasis came out, you know, I was like 12, 13. I got into them very early because my sister was into them from the very start. I'm not sure where she heard them. But yeah, I was into them pretty much straight away, even though no other kids at my school were listening to Oasis. You know, they were all listening to rave, rivalry, and whatever it was back then, I can't remember. But yeah, it was all the rave scene and that. So everyone was into like rave at my school and, you know, a bit of hip hop. But then, you know, I had long hair and, you know, I was into Oasis. So people thought I was a bit mad, but as time went on, you know, within like a year, 2 years, everyone was listening to Oasis, and everyone's forgetting that they like slagged me off for all this time. So for me, it was like I was getting to that age where I was, you know, I was getting into music and experiencing life, and Oasis were like the soundtrack to that early part of my life, as it was for many people. You know, but the music was great. People say about Noel all the time that he's not the greatest guitar player in the world, but, you know, all right, skill-wise, you know, he may not be, you know, Jimi Hendrix, you know, or even John Squire, but, you know, he's very talented, and he knows how to write a catchy lick. You know, he knows how to write a catchy song, full stop. You know, some absolute anthems that, you know, I remember coming home from going to parties with my mates and going to the pub and coming back and singing Oasis songs at the top of my voice. You know, it's great memories. You know, I can never have that taken away. And I think what's happened since Oasis kind of split up, and, you know, just before kind of the end of the 90s, you know, everything started turning a little bit sour, you know, in the country. And then obviously there was a bit of a decline with Oasis. I think Noel had just kind of got bored of the whole thing. You know, listened to him in interviews back then, I just think he couldn't bother. You know, he was like, you know, so we made the album, and then we were just thinking, let's make another one, and then when we've done that, we'll make another one. Like, he just couldn't really be bothered. He'd run out of steam at this point. So I think it was time. I think Oasis maybe should have split up before. I'd preferred on better terms, but I didn't want them to go ahead and destroy the legacy by just watering everything down and going away from what made them Oasis. So they split up, and for years everyone had that nostalgia inside of them. People were remembering what it was like in the 90s and that whole thing with the news. And every time you turn on the news, Liam or Noel, they were there for one reason or another. And there was the whole Blur Oasis situation, which was, at the time, it all seemed very serious. I remember taking it very serious. I actually liked Blur as well. I had their albums. I liked some of the songs. I did like Blur, but when it came down to the Roll With It versus Country, Country Hearts, I thought was garbage. Roll With It, I wouldn't say it was garbage, but I don't think it should have been a single. But it is what it is. It is what it is. That's what happened. And when they both got released on that day, I remember I went to buy Roll With It, but I refused to buy Country House. Number one, I didn't really like the song so much, but I did go and buy it a week later, just to see what the B-sides were like. I can't remember what they were now, but I think it was a couple of live versions or something. Can't remember. But yeah, then Blur went and won that war, and Oasis eventually Blur won that battle, but then Oasis went on and ended up winning the whole war in the end, as they dominated the whole country, and they tried to break out of the UK, and they weren't, they sold overseas, and they sold out shows overseas, but the vibe wasn't the same for them out there. I think people just didn't get their attitude, and a few things that they said, like Liam, was it Noel says, that he believes that they're bigger than the Beatles, and that annoyed a lot of people. Which is, Noel actually went on in more recent years, and I've seen him in an interview say that Oasis weren't bigger than Beatles because they ran out of steam, they ran out of songs, and Beatles obviously did it for a lot longer, and they sold more, and they had more of a catalogue. But for me personally, I like the Beatles as well, as probably many of you do that are watching this, if you like Oasis. And even if you don't like Oasis, you probably still like the Beatles anyway. But for me, Oasis were my teenage years, where the Beatles, I like the music, love the music, I can appreciate the music, but yeah, the Oasis were my teenage years, they were part of my growing up. So to see them recently get back together was very exciting. The FOMO watching these shows has been unreal. I didn't realise how much it would affect me. My sister that lives in Australia, she's actually got tickets to go and see them out there. I think there might even be some still available out there, which is so upsetting knowing that they're like gold dust out here and super expensive. But I think what's happened is with this Oasis reunion, it's took everybody back to the 90s, and that nostalgia also seems to have brought a little bit of hope back to people, and this feeling that things could be better and it's not all doom and gloom. That's how it is for me and a lot of people that I speak to, and that's how they feel. So it is the music, and it is good to see the brothers back together, having a relationship again. But I think as much as the music, it is the feeling of it. And then for the youngsters, they've grown up listening to Oasis because the parents have listened to Oasis, and it was the same for me. I listened to the Beatles because my dad listened to the Beatles. He was a big fan of the Beatles, and if I'd have had an opportunity to go and see the Beatles in my younger years, I would have been super, super excited for that. Obviously it's not possible with John Lennon not being with us any longer, but so it is super exciting for the kids. And a lot of people seem to be gatekeeping, saying, I couldn't get tickets, but I've just seen, these 15-year-olds there you know, they don't deserve to be there. You know, I think whoever went for tickets got the tickets. They deserve to be there. I've seen a lot of young'uns singing their heads off, every single word to every song at these shows. So who's to say that they can't go? You know, fair play to them. So yeah, that's what I think it means to everybody. I think as much as the great music that we've got back and the great live shows, Liam sounds great, Noel's sounding great on the guitar, Bonehead, you know, seeing the three of them back together as well. Obviously you've got Andy and Jem, you know, you've got Man on the drums as well. I would swap him for Tony McCarroll given the choice. Whitey said that he wouldn't want to come back, he refused it. I don't think they'd ever offer it to Tony McCarroll, but me personally, I'd give Tony McCarroll a shot. I'd let him, at least just for one show or something. I think it'd make his day. I think it'd make his year. I think he'd be buzzing with that, you know, to have been invited back in a certain capacity, but obviously it's never going to happen. So yeah, that's it. Let me know what you think. You know, what's your feelings? What have you loved the most about this Oasis comeback? Do you feel that same nostalgia and that same hope that things aren't all doom and gloom? Are you feeling like that, or is there another reason? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to call it a video. So thank you very much for watching. Like I said before, thank you very much to all the channel members. Well, there's just one at the moment, but thank you very much to you. Thank you very much to all the new subscribers. We're nearly at 2,000 now. So if you've not subscribed already, then yeah, please hit that button, hit the like button, hit the share button, and leave me a comment. Just let me know what you think of the video. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. It's been me, Ted, and I shall see you all later.